Happy Friday, Queens. What's going on? Happy Friday, everyone. Woo, I'm excited for this session, getting into it with you today. I saw that we had Long Island over here. We got Long Island and Queens. I was born in the Bronx. Pretty cool to see everyone over here. We got everyone from around the world. Austin, Texas. Enrico, good to see you this morning. Just let me catch up over here before we get started and make sure. Love those zebras. That's what we are, right? We talk about the analogy all the time. We talk buenas tardes. We talk about the analogy all the time of us being these felines on the African savannah. This is how we trade, stalking our setups, waiting for the right time to approach. Oh, all right. Let's see. I think we have a great session ahead of us. We got actually a lot of things to talk. It's Friday, and I love Friday sessions because it actually opens up the opportunity for some really good discussion. Happy Friday from Long Island. UK. And the reason I say that is because, right now people should be holding some pretty good trades. Everyone's seeing the market clearly. I think everyone's Sweden. What's going on? Born in the Bronx also. All right, Chris. And that's why we're here, Chris. Ready to learn, and that's why we're here. And I assure you there's going to be something that I learned today. There's going to be nuggets that are shared today that are worth writing down. That's what we do. We've noticed that people spending the time are seeing the results. No question about that. And then you have others working really hard. No question. They're going to see those results also. Looking over here, what are we looking at? The Euro-US dollar. The Euro-US dollar. Before we do that, by the way, there's nothing on the calendar really next week. On Friday, we have PMI numbers out of Europe, right? Really not too much going on. This I wanted to share. This is out of the Telegram this morning. Andy saying that boom, boom, boom. First week I've been profitable and I stuck pretty rigidly to the program. Closed out the week with 1% profit. Grateful to all of you in the group, especially Heath and Jesse, for your insight and support. I'm certain that I could have not done it without you. Now all I have to do is repeat it 11 more times, right? You need that second goal is 3 months. 3 months in a row. Have a nice weekend, everyone. Wanted to share that with you. There's a couple of things that I also want to share with you, including something about BlockFi over here, but we'll get into that once we start talking about Bitcoin, because we're going to be looking at Bitcoin this morning. Also, Will actually sent over both of these links starting at these times. We're going to watch about 45 seconds on each. And that was, thanks, Will, for that. All right. Euro US dollar. This is one of the most interesting trades over here. We looked at this actually yesterday evening during Asia, noted that this still looked good over here. It is resumed out over here during London, giving that entry for anyone who's not, I'm still holding mine, but anyone who was looking to reposition in. And so we have later the big news of the day is the summit over in the EU. And basically what happens is probably nothing. And then they're gonna agree to meet again. They're gonna meet again soon, and at that meeting they'll have some type of agreement on the recovery fund. And like, it probably won't be the best, but it also won't be the worst. But generally speaking, it looks like there's going to be a recovery fund, right? So that's kind of a non-event in my opinion. And really what we're looking at is the technicals once again, and we're seeing that softer dollar rejected by that little bit of local resistance we were looking for. Not only was this horizontal resistance right here on the dollar, but at the same, you could also see that that's a trend line that held also, right? So that was a pretty strong hold, assuming that we continue to go ahead and take out this low over here, the support at 98.84, right? You know, that's the next move on the dollar. And if that doesn't happen and we see some type of breakout of this, well, then we're looking up here at 97 next, and we'll watch price up there and see what happens. But that softer dollar continues, and the markets are also. Let's look at where we last left off with our little channel over here, right? This was our little channel. This was our game plan, right? I'm gonna just for convenience sake just erase the downside since we broke to the upside, right? And then here you had breakout, retest, resumption. There's the safe entry. There's the safe entry. That's the safe entry. But most of the people think it's going straight there, so they get in too soon, right? Most people play the breakout because they think that it's going there. Whoop. So here we are. I mean, our next target is up here at the resistance again, 32.32. Let's see if we break out. It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible. We'll see. The risk now over here, now that you've broken out over there, right? At this point, you trade that, I think, with the stop loss, a pretty tight stop loss, whether it's below that last little swing or the one previous and that channel support. You know, those are the options that you need to think about. NASDAQ is leading the gains this morning. Let's see what happens as the markets open up in about 20 minutes. And, you know, whether or not that continues or not. But NASDAQ is leading to the upside over here. Interesting, after Netflix posted what was good earnings, but not such good forward guidance, saying that basically we maxed out the quarantine numbers, you know, so growth is going to obviously slow down a little bit. They still, I don't know, did they bring in $1 billion of cash? It's pretty good. So let's see what happens this morning with all stocks. I want to know what happens with Tesla over here. Is it able on this Friday to continue resuming out here off of this last test? Is this now support that we're building over here? What's going on with the markets in general? But we're going to focus in on FX this session. Before we do that, let's take a look at Bitcoin. And Bitcoin continuing to hold with, you know, continuing to hold the 9,000 level. The last time Bitcoin struggled a long time with a level, if y'all remember the 6,000 level, let's look at that. How could I find that? Just give me 1 second. When in doubt, zoom out. Here it is. If for those who remember when Bitcoin would not drop below 6,000, right? The low was 5,800. It was like 6,100, but it could not break below 6,000. That went on September into October, into November, and then it got crushed, So, we're in a different part of the cycle right now, but it's, what does that mean? It does mean a big move is coming. The longer this consolidation goes on over here, the bigger the move. All of my research points to the upside. All right. So, by the way, I wanted to say something about Bitcoin and BlockFi. Omar runs the channel Cryptocurrency News, Crypto, on YouTube, Crypto News, and I've for years have from time to time listened to Omar, and I really like Omar. And he's talking about he tried to withdraw some funds from BlockFi, and they said that they wanted to confirm his identity because it was suspicious account activity. And, he had 48 hours to send in, verification of his identity. And Omar's like, man, I can't stand these centralized exchanges because getting your Bitcoin back shouldn't have to be so complicated. And for sure, Omar is way more versed in altcoins, in cryptocurrency than myself, and has experience, working with these DeFi blockchains and exchanges where you just get your money back right away. You don't need all this ID confirmation, blah 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 blah. But BlockFi is a centralized exchange. It is a centralized exchange backed by VC money. So the fact that they're actually going through this extra step here of making sure this is not suspicious and my bank does it all the time, and it's such an inconvenience. I could be traveling, spend something somewhere, the bank cuts off the card, you have to call, make sure it's okay. The fact that BlockFi is centralized, if you're keeping funds there and a significant amount of money, you want that extra protection at the same time. So, interesting, and something I wanted to share with you as it's an ongoing conversation. This also, just to make note, I'm going to share the link with you right here, starting at actually 15 minutes into this. I'll put this into the chat right now for everyone who wants it. This is Lynn Alden giving an interview here on Macro Voices. I like listening to Lynn, what she has to say. And here she's talking about what it's going to look like, the road to inflation, something I'll be watching and listening to this weekend. There we are. Thanks for letting me know. I noticed I noted on that Twitter thread with Omar. I'm going to make a small withdrawal then, just so I have it, have gone through the hoops once at least, rather than when I want to do it. But I didn't realize that it's every time you try to withdraw, they're basically going to do that. You said several times. Interesting. Israel, Iran, U.S., China war 30-day countdown. Let's hope, please pray for peace. Please pray for peace. Yep. I agree. Yeah, that's a hassle. But in my own approach, I'm accumulating and continue and have money there, and I'll continue to do that until I'm just holding there, until I transfer into a stable coin at the towards as close as I could get to the top of the Bitcoin bull market, and I'll transfer to a stable coin and collect that interest. So that's, it's a small hassle. Yeah, Omar has a YouTube channel. It's called Crypto News, but crypto is spelt with a 0. So if you just like inside YouTube search that crypto, you'll get it. Yeah, we're going to get to the markets over here, but it's Friday, so that means everyone's in positions and holding on to those positions right now, right? Looking to manage them. So we're going to get to it all. Texas is supposed to be land of the free. Gemini is the owners of Gemini are the Winklevoss brothers. They're the ones that basically came up with the idea with Facebook, hired Mark Zuckerberg to work on, and he then went with the idea and created the Facebook. They sued Mark Zuckerberg, and I think they won $62 or $72 million because he stole their idea, as it goes, or as the judgment goes. And then they took all that money and they invested it into Bitcoin. These guys went all in on Bitcoin in, I think it was 2013. Believe me, that was an enormous risk they took. They're billionaires because of it. They're billionaires because of it. And maybe with the appreciation of the price of Bitcoin in the future, maybe their net worth will be more than Mark Zuckerberg's at one point. Wouldn't that be ironic? But that looks like what a bet they made. And Bitcoin, let me tell you, back 7 years ago was way more riskier than it is today. Exponentially. Yes. Bitcoin will be around 20 years from now. Yeah, we go. Look, I love this comment over here. And you guys notice the pace. Maybe we don't. I don't know. I'm going with the flow of what I like. We've had some blockbuster sessions this entire week. And I'm looking forward to making this another one. We're going to kind of like work our way into it. Market's open in 15 minutes. Market's open in 15 minutes, holding on to some nice gains over here. NASDAQ really up 1%. Are we going to have a trend day? The market's going to be able to hold on to this. We're going to take a look at a lot. Before we do that, yeah, so pumping Bitcoin so much makes me worry. So maybe, hey, Kodak, if you're new to the channel, I just want you to understand that it's been going on for quite a while. I've been preparing people ever since this channel started. Back in November of 2019, I made a Bitcoin playlist and outlined the 4-year cycle of Bitcoin, both the bull and the bear. So although at this point I am very bullish on Bitcoin, it's because we are entering the bullish phase of that bull cycle, right? Now, come 18 months from now or what have you, I will turn very bearish on Bitcoin. It is what it is. Right now, I need to be preparing myself for the most important trade right now that I can possibly make, right? And we've been positioning ourselves in here for a while. That's why, because right now, because whether it's 6 months from now, 12 months from now, there's going to come a point when Bitcoin is working its way towards 100,000, and I want everyone that knows me at least will be able to share in that joy, even if they chose not to take that trade, because they'll know that I did my very best to just inform them as much as I can of what I'm doing and what that 4-year cycle looks like. So there we are. What are my thoughts on all other cryptos as trades? That's a really good question, because it's alt season. Alt season's beginning. You're going to see some insane moves on crypto. Do I think that you should open up a separate account that you use just for speculation? Maybe even 10% of your overall funds for trading altcoins, doing exactly what we do, right? We teach here how to trade markets, right? Of course, the easiest and best market to trade is foreign exchange. No question about it. 8-hour time frame, best and easiest market to trade. That doesn't mean that altcoins are not ripe for trading as we enter alt season, right? And I do think that having maybe a speculative account, maybe 10% of your money speculative account that you're using. I had a friend with no trading experience back in 2017 turn like what did he turn it? He turned like $5,000 into $100,000 trading altcoins. So yeah, I think that's a good idea, especially altcoins. They go through flows where you see a flow into Bitcoin, appreciation of the price of Bitcoin, and then that flows into altcoins. It first flows through the larger cap altcoins like Ethereum, right? And Litecoin, and also Ripple, and then it goes into medium capped coins. Is that now linked, right? Is that Tezos? And then it goes down to the lowest price ones, the penny stocks, if have you later on, then back into Bitcoin. And it's a continuous flow. You're looking, right, during the bull market phase, really to be focused on the long side of the market, right? I can't imagine for 18 months in a bull market trying to keep selling tops. That's exhausting, and it's going to really just wipe you out. So if you're trading altcoins, you're just looking to buy off strong supports, right? And yeah, I think that's awesome. I'm not really. I've read your comment. I'm not really sure how to follow it. But when you're saying you're looking for around 18 to 25% pullbacks only, yeah. I mean, any during the bull market on Bitcoin, in my opinion, and with my strategy, any 18, any 15, right? Any 20, any 30% pullback, I'm there buying. Those are where I'm buying. Yep. You know what? You could do that. You know when it's time, and I just don't want to. Just everyone here is now support me when I turn bearish. When everyone's like, just support me because I have that right to turn bullish or bearish when the market dictates. Of course, there's a huge risk. There's a huge risk in holding Bitcoin for 10 years. If someone told me, right? If someone told me for 10 years, what would you want to hold if I gave you $100,000 of that value today? Would I want to hold $100,000 cash? Would I want to hold $100,000 worth of gold or $100,000 worth of Bitcoin? I would, without even thinking about it, or I've already thought about it, I would choose Bitcoin. But now if someone asked that question for 30 years, well, then I'm not so sure. I think I would pick gold. Now, I hope I come to change my mind and understand that I don't need that I could stay with Bitcoin, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens 20 years from now. We'll see what happens 10 years from now. We'll see what happens 5 and 15 years from now. That's not, that's a personal question of how much of your assets you should have in Bitcoin. That has to do with whatever your risk tolerance is, right? That has to do with what your risk tolerance is. Yeah, I know, Kips, and one of my closest friends, also an amazing investor, has been on that Palladium while now for a while. You and him, Kips, and he always tells me that Palladium is more scarce than gold. Yep, Doris, it's a really good question. That's what other institutional investors say. For example, Anthony Pompolonio of Morgan Creek Digital, they've sell Bitcoin to pension funds, and pension funds that invest in Bitcoin, right? They're using Morgan Creek, and that's what they say. So I'm going off of their expertise, and others, Raul Pal of Real Vision, who, his whole network are these institutional investors. They talk about the same thing. So I'm just going off of their knowledge over there. So, by the way, Ready Steady said, look at Cardano. Fundamentally, it's an Ethereum killer. They put in the work into it. There's a channel, if you're not familiar with it, called Data Dash. And he just put up a video. I didn't watch it, but I know he put it up. He put it up within the last 48 hours, and it talks about the protocol wars. Ethereum's a protocol, right? And he talks about, is there an Ethereum killer? I would watch that video if you're interested in that. I would watch that video. It's called the protocol wars. What's the stock to flow? There's a Google, or don't Google, search stock to flow, search S2F, Plan B, medium. There's a Medium article on there that Plan B has written. Plan B, a quant out of Amsterdam, I believe, who has done the research that, throughout the financial world, it has sent ripples. Some of the smartest people that I know of find it fascinating. I find it fascinating. And, I look, obviously I'm a chartist, technician, and the stock to flow just matches what's going on in the charts. All right. Yeah, so when Raul says that Bitcoin's going to 1 million, Raul understands and knows that it's going over 1 million. You could just, he's putting out that. When I say $100,000, inside, I believe Bitcoin's going well beyond $100,000 in this current cycle. And I did a video on that of where I think it'll go. I gave the exact price target that I think that it'll go to. But when Raul says that, he's right. And Bitcoin will go to $1 million. Now that's within the next. That's not this bull market cycle. That's not the next bull market cycle. It's the bull market cycle after that. So, you're talking some time. And I do believe that anyone who just spent their next 10 years trading, positioning themselves, using the 4-year cycle in Bitcoin, absolutely build an enormous amount of wealth, no matter what they're starting with right now. All right, let's get into some charts over here as the markets are getting ready to open. S&P continues holding near their highs. Let's check it out over here. How many people do we get to share this with right now? For 720 people, it's been pretty much where we're at. Glad to have you all here this morning. Thanks for being here to enjoy this time together. Let's keep going over here. By the way, if you like this Friday opening over here, yeah, there we go. Smash those like buttons. Definitely appreciate that. Before we start getting into the markets over here, I want to share this with you really quick. So this should be pretty short, but important. And I want to see it too again.
Of its 5-month range, but it also had a significant uptick on Monday's move. Of its 5-month range, but again pullback that we saw in that period.
This is real vision.
Volatility is still near the bottom of its 5-month range, but it also had a significant uptick on Monday's move.
Let's talk about this uptick we saw in volatility, right? We're seeing here a higher highs over here, right? And now we're seeing also, what do we see? We're seeing a higher low. So we're seeing consolidation form. So, whether or not that this uptick over here doesn't mean that we're coming back up to make another higher high after making this higher low. Let's see what happens over here.
In other asset classes, we have seen some risk assets approach key resistance. Having filled the gap created by the oil price war, West Texas.
For how long do we talk about filling that gap? We talked about it ever since oil started trading back above 20, right? Gap is now filled. What's next for oil? This really depends on where you think the economy is going. I'm actually, I guess, quite an optimist right now. We'll see.
Crude oil futures have been flatlining. Copper has now rallied to its 10-year.
This is why Will sent this to me. This is why Will has been involved in this trade to the upside, and now he's thinking here as you come into the resistance of selling. Is it time to sell, or are we breaking out to the upside here as copper enters this 10-year trend line?
Resistance, which it tested on Monday before falling back. A weaker US dollar has been an impetus for many of these risk assets, but positioning is now getting slightly stretched, with CFTC speculative shorts having increased significantly in recent weeks, and euro longs are now the second highest that they've been in 10 years.
So I'm obviously a believer of oversold can remain oversold and overbought can remain overbought for an extended period of time. When I see indicators start getting extended, that leads me to believe things are a little outside the norm that could continue.
The Australian dollar, which has been one of the leaders in the rebound in risk since late March, has also lost momentum since reaching the 70 cents mark versus the US dollar. Now, none of this necessarily means that equity markets should reverse, but there are sufficient cautionary signs.
Right. So we've been on this. So the last thing he said, the most important, he said, look, all of this doesn't mean that equity markets should decline from here. Obviously, when you look at Real Vision, when you're looking at institutional money, all of this quote unquote smart money has been on the wrong side of the trade. And they're still looking for that down move. Is it coming? Well, I don't know. I want to be aware of it. Maybe everyone has an opinion, but unless you're aware of the all sides of an argument, of a discussion, of an investment, you're making yours not from a smart place. I'll tell you that much. So we'll see. There's one other thing that I wanted to hear. Yeah. And this is, something else that Will shared in the same video. Also talking about the Australian dollar here, talking about how it led to the upside from the bottom. And since it's been held up at resistance, that looks like it's getting ready to make another leg up. And that would mean the equity markets would then follow. Let's just good insight here that's worth you understanding, digesting, and then you figuring out if it's something that, you know, aligns with your views.
Be looking at going forward.
I think it's always worth looking at the Aussie dollar, because the Aussie dollar was one of the first currencies to properly punch out of the lows back in March. And it's been trying to push higher. Obviously, with the dollar coming back, it's been also trying to push higher, but it's been at this 70 level, 70 cent level, and it's been flatlining there for a while. And you know, there was a time, remember when we had the 5% pullback on the S&P in early June? You were given a little bit of an insight to that because the Aussie dollar had a little bit of a pullback a couple of days beforehand. So I'm going to look at the Aussie dollar. If it fails at this 70 level, I think that's a signal for risk. Oil is another one. You know, WTI closed that gap that was created when we had the beginning of the oil price war. But again, it's been struggling at this sort of 40, 42 level where that gap opened up. So flatlining along there. So there's a lot of these other risk assets which are there. And copper, so this is the COMEX copper, so the US copper. That's hit a 10-year.
So this is again, we just looked at that copper chart hitting that 10-year trend line. Here he's talking about that also.
Resistance level. If all these fail here, it would suggest that, you know, we've not just got one or two pockets, like a few signs from the US equity market, etc., but there may be one or two other things. So I'm going to keep an eye on those. If those break out, then you've probably got another leg higher in these equity markets. But if that's also with the weaker dollar, then you probably want to shift towards the more industrial part of the market.
Wait, listen to this. He's saying if the reason this is happening, if the reason copper is getting ready to break out to the upside, if we're going to see further extension on the Aussie dollar to the upside, and the equity markets also make a leg up, it's because of the weaker dollar. And he said, if you're going to have a weaker dollar, this is funny because this is what you've been hearing from me all week. And if you're going to have a weaker dollar, the best play then is towards the what? We've been looking at the US dollar, Mexican peso. He's talking here about emerging markets.
Want to shift towards emerging markets still. You'll extend that. And because I talked about that VIX versus... sort of
yeah, so that's it. Boom. All right. US equity markets here just opening now, right? Breaking out of this range we were looking at yesterday. We're looking at the 2 hour because this is where we laid out our plan. We were consolidating over here in this area, broke out to the upside. We were ready for downside breakout or upside breakout. Broke out, pullback, resumption off. Traders or anyone interested, this is obviously where they went long. And now waiting and looking for a possible breakout here to the upside. This trade becomes null if you hit maybe perhaps the low of the entry, the trigger bar, or maybe the support area right below that last consolidation. Those would be areas that probably you were wrong on the trade. Boom, 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 right? Oh, by the way, as the markets open over here, I can't stand having to waiting to certain times of day to see these things open up. Netflix opening down 5% today. Is it a buying opportunity? Is Netflix a buy? You know, how far are we down off here, off the high, by the way? Yeah, 14% off the lows down there, down into a nice area. Or are we seeing a further pullback into some big, strong resistance? I don't know. Let's see. It depends on what the equity markets are going to do. Today, going into Friday, I got to get rid of that little highlight thing there. Let's check out what gold is doing as it maintains this consolidation right around 1800 all week. Gold, after the last outburst, looks continue to be strong over there. It looks like it's consolidating really nicely, getting ready for another leg up. Would love to see gold taking out all-time high right around 1900. I would love to see that. Silver should be outpacing gold to the upside. We've already looked at Bitcoin, which has been lagging. Maybe this weekend is when it makes its move. Maybe this weekend is when it makes its move. We'll see. Euro US dollar. All right. This is coming out and along nicely. You often see this, by the way. When you see like a central bank meet, and then you see like a fake out, and then over the overnight session, that's faded again. It's just funny. There's nothing that could replace experience. Experience just simply comes from time, right? Nice, Max. Nice. let's see, Australian dollar, US dollar. Let's get a close look. It continues over here. What I'm noticing, the last entry point, right, was that buy off that support. Trade continues to look good so far. I don't see any sign of risk coming over. I am noticing, of course, we've yet to take out, right, the June high across the board. Only the NASDAQ really is leading to the upside. You could see here S&P could do it today. It could do it today. Sure. NASDAQ leading to the upside again today. Let's take a look. Still a little bit off its highs, but, you know, pullback, looking to buy. And the Dow today, that's lagging. That's lagging. In order for us to really think about really being able to have anything that's further sustained, I think we need for the Dow to break above its June high, not just the S&P. But, you know, anyway, that's where we are. I'm just trying to get a good feel myself. That's why I'm looking at those things. Australian dollar, Canadian dollar. I don't like how this pair trades, but we're going to look at it. Some people were involved. They were actually, I think it was Ben involved in that nice breakout over there. I probably would only have taken a stop loss at break even. Annoying, and then coming out of it again. Difficult pair to trade, but nevertheless, you see the Australian dollar continuing ever since the March low over here, continuing to make that trend against the Canadian dollar. Swiss franc is a little bit big today. Let me look at the US dollar, Swiss franc. That's actually showing, wow, that's a nice move over here, bringing us back down towards the 0.93898 support, you know, selling resistance in downtrend, and this is a clear one. Yeah, so we'll see if we break down over there. What's going on with the dollar? Yeah, I mean, it's not yet looking that soft. It's hanging in there. See if that changes this session. So this is a good question. What would be the best solution to hedge against a weakening US dollar versus euro? For my trades on the US market, Google search doesn't yield anything clear about this. So if you're looking at, like, if you're in Europe, you know, your investments are Europe, and then you're making US dollar investments, right, in the US equity markets in US dollars, and you're afraid about a US, why would the US equity markets be rising if foreign investment wasn't coming into the US? Is foreign investment not going to come to the US on a weakening dollar? Will it be looking for emerging market solutions, perhaps? You know, it may, you know, it may. So think about that. So a weakening US dollar, though, the way to play that, though, is through what? It's through Bitcoin, it's through gold, right? Or silver, or an emerging market play. So yeah. Any tips on analysis paralysis? I always seem to draw a few too many support and resistance lines. I think it's really important if you're going through indecisiveness that you force yourself to make 3 trades a week, even when there aren't. And the last 2 weeks have been the first time all year that there have not been, you know, that those 3 opportunities a week. But you just want to force yourself, because if you're getting to the point where you're frozen, and you shouldn't be frozen if you're trading the correct risk per trade, you should not be freezing at all. You should be freezing if you're over positioning yourself, right? And that leads to really bad mistakes when you're trading oversized. But I would just work on them. If you find yourself that you're putting in too many support and resistance levels, then look at my support and resistance levels, or there must be an indicator that draws support and resistance in for you. Does anyone know of an indicator that draws in support and resistance? Yeah, this is a great. So my favorite books of all time when it comes to the markets are the Market Wizard books, and also the New Market Wizard books, which is it's a compilation of interviews with some of the legends of the markets, and it's fascinating. No one's telling you, like, you know, how to make money in the markets per se, but they're telling you what it entails and what it takes to do it. Absolutely. I've read each of them multiple times, and also Remnants of a Stock Operator. The story of Jesse Livermore. Jesse Livermore was a trader who was able to, in today's terms, made $1 trillion in the markets, and also lost it. He wound up making 3 fortunes in his lifetime and losing them, and actually dying broke, committing suicide. All right, let's take it out. Euro. Let's take a look at the euro. Hopefully, she's on the move. She's kind of just hanging out right now, right? She's kind of hanging out. New York just getting warmed up. New York's tricky, so we're watching for reversals. It's easy to see where the reversal comes on the S&P, right? It would be, again, probably taking out the low of that channel over there, or the low of that piercing entry bar. What else do we have going on? The dollar. Everything's kind of like, everything is still right now. It was a good London session, and now everything's still. Waiting for that opportunity. Euro, Japanese yen into that resistance. I'm looking for a break above. I'm looking and targeting this area over here, 123.60. Be nice to get the pop during this session. What happens if we don't? What happens if we're rejected here? I'm trading this off the 8-hour, right? What happens if we're rejected here? That will come in next week. I'll figure out what's going on tomorrow, during Asia. If we're rejected, and then during London make a lower low, then I'll consider what's going on. But right now, this looks really good, testing that 122.51 resistance again. We are seeing, equity markets slightly up. Let's see what happens. Next 90 minutes of trading are going to be basically the end of the week here, I think. Thanks, man. Thanks, Gene. Thanks for being a part of it. Thanks for being, thanks for allowing me the opportunity to be able to share all of this with you. If anyone liked the videos that we looked at, first of all, Will sent them to me, right? So otherwise I wouldn't have seen them. So I was grateful for that. And he also sent the exact timestamp. And, I'm a big fan of Real Vision and listening to the conversations there all the time. Anytime I get a moment, which is rare, I'll turn on Real Vision on YouTube on the bed and just like listen to people talk. I love it. What's the best Mexican food? First of all, there's a documentary on Netflix on tacos, and the first one is in Mexico City, and it tells the best taco spots. It's if you like anything like The Chef's Table on Netflix, which I love learning about not only the food but the culture of where it comes from. Watch this series, especially the first episode on Tacos Pastor. It is absolutely amazing. Now, I also know in LA, they got the Taco King. Can you imagine the United States? Can you imagine there was, I believe it was a Mexican who was living in Los Angeles. He lost his job. So what did he do? He went to a parking lot and started selling tacos in the parking lot. And the tacos were so good that today he's called the Taco King in Los Angeles, owns numerous taquerias, and it's just what a fantastic story. Someone without a job, what do? This, go into the parking lot, start selling tacos. Thank you. I appreciate that comment. That gives me a lot of I'll be honest with you, before getting on with all of you, it's a nervous moment. I'm not an introvert, but I do get on my knees every time, and I pray for God that please may people hear you and know you're a light, and that's awesome comment to read. I appreciate that. All right, so looking for the dollar to extend down. The next leg up on the equity markets means the dollar is breaking down over here. We looked at that in that Real Vision interview, and also someone else was saying that he believes right now this is a dollar story. That's where I remain. And recommendations for storing Bitcoin. Yeah, make sure you store Bitcoin, in my opinion, offline in a hardware wallet. There's a link below in the description for a Treasure. You could use a passcode, like as you enter your PIN on your Treasure, For optimal security, you also create a passphrase. Don't lose your information. Know how to store your stuff. Know how to back it up and take it seriously. You don't put your backup, online. So there's safe practices. I'm sure you could find there is a ton of amazing information. So just make sure you watch some videos first. Yep, Ledger is also a good option, as well as also Cold Card is liked. You could also store a small amount of Bitcoin on exchanges, whether it's Binance, whether it is BlockFi, whether it is where else would you FX Choice, right? But when you store Bitcoin on an exchange, you're taking on third party risk, as you do when you hold money in when you hold US dollars in your bank account. You're taking on risk that bank is not going to make bad investments with your money and is going to remain solvent. Banks are notorious for taking horrible risks. Kips is looking for the euro trade to fade later today. Andre, what's going on with the VWAMP indicator? In 2 days now, I've heard people mention it. You and someone else emailed me about it. I'm not familiar with it whatsoever. All right, what are we looking at over here today? First of all, what a good week! What a good week we had together, and I'm grateful for that. Just want to thank you all. Euro Japanese yen watching here. That looks like it has got some momentum to the upside. Kips is looking for a reversal though. I hope not. I hope we take out these highs, and I hope we do it today. That would be nice. Way to go in the weekend. And also, same thing with 32.32. Are we going to have a trend day? It's too early to tell. This could go either way. We've seen two reversals in the market this week. We've seen reversals happen on Monday and Tuesday. Here was Monday's reversal, and then Tuesdays. So here we are back again, exactly where we were at the beginning of the week, back towards the 32.32 resistance. And also, I'm just going to say it now, as we entered over here and said, all right, this is where you should be taking profits, right? We were very clear at that at the beginning of the week. We've reached right over here. We've reached our profit target. It's time to take profits. And from here, I think that we're probably going to consolidate a while before breaking up. Here we are now at the end of the week, consolidating right on that level. Let's see, looking good. We are taking out the highs today. I'm looking at yesterday's high on the euro US dollar. Yesterday's high over here. We're looking. I'm hoping we take that out today. That would be a nice, fantastic. You learn a lot about identifying high probability entry points. Could you spend more time how to estimate the risk reward ratio? PA hat, we do all that definitely in the course. We're very clear on all specifics. That's probably, if you're looking to go further, that's definitely what you want to do. Boom, 32.40 close today. Where would that take us? Just to the high. And then do we have a gap up over the weekend? I mean, things I would like to see, whether they happen or not. Let's look at the downside. Always want to be looking at the adverse side, right? And that's clear, right? Below here, this is the max time to get out. Looking at the whole number, 3,200. There you go. And the markets are stalled though. The markets are stalled. Look at them. If you look at the last, what are we looking at here? 4-minute chart. I don't know how that came up or into my thing. Netflix is down. Where's the support on Netflix? So on Netflix, by the way, the best way to get into Netflix right now is not buying as it comes into an area of support. It would be when it held the support and then resumed out of that, right? So real simple, right? Even if you're using here an 8-hour time frame, you're not looking to enter Netflix until it stops falling and begins making a higher high. That would be the first opportunity to enter Netflix. Is that the best one? Well, I don't know about that. It could depend, right? But right now Netflix is falling. and there's no way anyone should be looking to buy until you start. Hey, Cattle Bruiser, what are you doing spamming the channel, brother? What's going on? That we don't do that. Let's see. Jordan, you remember Manny's Baseball Land from the Bronx? No, I was born in the Bronx. No, I was born in the Bronx, but I grew up at first in Queens, and then I moved to Long Island when I was really young, when I was 3 years old. So I don't know Manny's at all. All right, what else are we looking at? No, markets are not doing anything right now. That's fine because I know that I'm holding on to some nice positions and been holding on to them for a while. That's the market. There was only one trade that I took this week, still holding a couple of other open trades, but only one new trade this week for myself. I've seen that across the board from those that did really well this week. And have been doing well. They're not in a rush to take those setups unless they're there. Glen Cove is a beautiful place. I used to teach tennis at at Muttontown Country Club, right? When I was like 15 years old. I didn't teach tennis, but I helped out in the tennis area over there. Summertime job. I don't know the specifics on that. That's something that could easily be researched. People haven't shared with me before. Oh, I'm not. I mean, again, I grew up on Long Island. I am a New York Met fan. NASDAQ going down again? Because the NASDAQ was leading this morning. So the NASDAQ, I'm seeing up. Yeah, I'm seeing the NASDAQ up so far almost 1% on the day. The Dow lagging today. Dow up a little more than 0.25%. So that's good, actually, to see that rotation back into the NASDAQ to the upside over here now. It's kind of like with gold or Bitcoin. You see gold do the hard work on the breakout to the upside, and then you see silver jump ahead. And then you have Bitcoin, same thing. Bitcoin does the hard work, and then the altcoins just like bolt ahead. So nice that the NASDAQ is leading today, and I'm hoping that it brings the rest of the markets with it. Oh, it's tough being a Mets fan, isn't that? Isn't it tough being a Met fan? Yeah. So they've had. So by the way, without looking into Grayscale, just seeing like a random headline on Twitter, I noticed that. So the most recent results were that people have bought an obscene amount of Bitcoin this past month and quarter, and I think over 50% of that was institutional money. But if anyone's on the quarterly call right now, they'll have a better update, or maybe we'll be seeing them in the next 24 hours on social media. Where else are we at today? Because the markets are not moving. Nevertheless, I'm still glad to be here with you all. I'm sorry that I can't be pointing out anything that's not happening at the moment, but here we are. So what else are we looking at? Is anyone else have their eye on anything that they would like to check out this morning? I was a little bit interested this morning in the fact that we're seeing the US dollar rise against the Mexican peso with the US equity markets up. That's the second time this week we saw that correlation breaking a little bit between the US dollar, Mexican peso, and the equity markets. But if you notice again today, you see and we saw it yesterday morning. The US dollar, Mexican peso was down, and the markets were also down. So that doesn't make sense. Probably going to see one of the two make a big difference. It's happening again. Who's selling Bitcoin? I don't know who's selling Bitcoin. I think people are just not rotating into Bitcoin right now. Obviously, precious metals. There is a big overlap between precious metals and Bitcoin investors, and right now that wave is coming from Bitcoin. And I've said, I don't know about how many days, right? I think it was only by like 10 days that Bitcoin was leading. But if you look at this, right, like this is the consolidation period. Gold broke out when it broke out. It broke out a few weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago. And then if you look at Bitcoin, it's still in that consolidation phase. It hasn't broken out yet to the upside. Yeah. When it does, when it's Bitcoin's turn here, it's going to be outperforming gold by an enormous margin. But nevertheless, for me, honestly, the longer it holds out, it's just more opportunity to continue accumulating Bitcoin. And why at the same time, I want to see Bitcoin break 10,400 and really start working its way quickly towards 14,000. And I'll be really happy when Bitcoin's trading at 14,000 for sure. Nevertheless, it's more attractive buying Bitcoin here at 9,000. We're looking at the Australian dollar, Japanese yen breaking out of a 2-year trend line. So I don't think so. Do you have this line up here? I'm going to check it out. Are we looking at this? No. See, I don't. That line over there, I can see very clearly. That's a good one. That's a good one right there. And it looks to me that we have failed over here. And then all of a sudden, now we're holding over here. This over here, get back above it, and this thing, I don't know. Australian dollar, Japanese yen. I think there's a strong probability of coming up and testing 76. A breakout above there. Are we ready for that? We'll see. I don't know. As you can see, this is lagging like the Dow. This is lagging like the Dow. What about the Australian dollar, US dollar? It's still lagging a little bit. Looks a little bit better than against the yen. This looks similar to the Japanese yen. This looks like the Dow. And when I say it looks like the Dow, the reason I say that is you can see it looks like the Dow. So lagging there to the upside, right? What is Tesla doing this morning? Tesla being Tesla. Tesla resuming out here. Tesla now resuming out off of this support. This is super interesting and fun as the volatility picks up over here, right? This has become, ever since the breakout over here, past 1,000, extraordinarily volatile. And yeah, volatility does lead to consolidation, but why things are volatile, you still have big moves. Are people interested in here looking for that next leg up in the equity markets, right? Is that coming? Right. So far, that's what's setting up, right? And that's continues to be the direction we lean until proven different. If you're resuming over here, are you looking to buy Tesla now? Also knowing that if you start making the lower lows, because this is so volatile, you need to get right out, right? If you take the entry here and then start making a lower low today or next week, you have to get out of that trade right away, because that's not, with the volatility as such, it's not really the highest probability trade up there. New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar. Let's check it out. So I know the Australian dollar is really broken out nicely versus the Canadian dollar. In looking at the New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar, notice here that the Australian dollar is maintaining this breakout above that resistance, now support at 0.94. That's very, very healthy. Is the Euro Canadian dollar, which is lagging, is that going to catch up? You can see it lagging behind over here. Yeah, I mean, the better trade is, I believe, on the Australian dollar. This, the New Zealand dollar doesn't look as good over here technically against the Canadian dollar. Yeah, let's take a look at Microsoft. Wow, it must be a Friday if we're looking at individual stocks over here, right? So Microsoft looks like it's headed into this area of support. If that breaks, we could be looking at further declines for sure, right? But why that we're at a very important level right around here on Microsoft. It's make or break it for Microsoft right here. So does anything else look like that? If you look at Amazon, similar. You could see make or break it. Amazon has the potential to resume out of over here to the upside. Apple, look at the steepness of that rise over there, and you could see over here if you're just looking at this one, for example, on Apple, right? When you broke over here, that's when you have the downside, right? And then same thing coming up to the upside, boom. But now, you have to just keep watching it. Right now, you expect to continue for this incline to continue in price to continue to make higher highs until it breaks that line. That could be a big sell signal selling up across the NASDAQ, which was up earlier on the day. So keep watching. Could be a nice sell signal setting up, which could lead to possibly, let's look on the 3-day here. Yeah. Things could get volatile. Summer trading, things could get volatile. So by the way, just for my own benefit, let me see some recent declines over here. Like this one over here was a 24% decline. That's a big decline. Hold on, let's clean that up. Let me just drag that over here now, right? So we got some nice big support coming in at around 97 on the NASDAQ over here. That would be a 12% decline. I don't think we're going to get a 12% decline. That's a place you might want to think about getting long. Are we going to see any type of decline into some pretty strong support off 30%? Man, I don't know. See, that seems like the hard trade. It seems like the hard trade. I never heard of Germ. Milkshake is not shaking. I mean, Brent has taken Brent's not a swing trader. Brent has taken out or is playing the long game. And he's probably right. There's going to be probably, I don't know if he's right. We'll see. I think there's going to be a point in time where we see, and I've said maybe it's 6 years from now. The last time it happened was 12 years ago. It took 12 years for the next crisis. Let's see how long it takes for the next one. I don't know. But Brent is right? This could crash deflationary. We could see that strong a dollar. But right now, like kind of where we live and where we hang out, we're looking so far still at that continued weak dollar weakness, right? And we're getting ready for possibly making another leg down here on the dollar, right? If this 96 does not hold, right, we could be taking a look much, much lower. We could be looking, we could be looking all the way down towards 91. That's entirely possible. Probably our first target would be somewhere around 94, 93.80. And that's a big move possibly coming up on the dollar. So, Link is coming off a huge move. So, right, like you what could you do? Like you have to wait for a pullback into support. There's nothing else you could do. Where's that support? There's no support yet, right? You gotta now. This is gonna consolidate before it makes another move. It's too soon to tell whether that move will be up or down. If you're not a part of this right now, you have to be patient and you have to start finding out where you want to build a position in, right? And then you want to slowly build that position in. Will Link continue to have further impulses to the upside? Link, by the way, and Tezos, which we've had on our watch list for a while, they're the only two pairs ever, altcoins on Binance, that have, since they've been listed, have traded up and to the right, and they made their whole right for quite the foreseeable future. I think in all crypto, when you go with, by the way, the crypto top 30 or top 100, that's probably a really good investment to make. Then you don't have to really be worrying about this, you know? When I say worrying about this, I mean, man, like day trading stocks is really focused and high intensive. There's no difference with the altcoins. You have to have a high level of aptitude, of focus, and for an extended period of time in order to be a part of these moves. Otherwise, they'll go against you adversely the same way. So right now, you got to be patient with Link, right? We were looking at Link months ago. Here's where like you could do a little bit of profit taking, I think. You're waiting for pullbacks on a higher time preference. We just extended upwards. Yeah, Euro US dollar now getting ready to challenge. Is it getting ready to challenge the high of Thursday? Yep, it is. That looks good over here. We'll see. We'll see if the euro has what's in it to be able to break out. I hope it does. I continue to hold my long, and that's a good trade in the works. My price target is much higher, right? I'm targeting the resistance up here towards 1.16, and also looking to be a seller up there. I will also look to be a seller up there. I don't know if the dollar is going to really continue to weaken. Maybe this is where the markets turn. Maybe this is where the U.S. equity markets finally turn and take a breather. We'll see if we're going to get that weaker dollar, right? On the next move down, we're going to look at the dollar trading at 95. Will that take the next leg up and maybe the last leg up for the markets? Maybe the S&P will get caught up somewhere over here around 33, right? Maybe it needs more time to consolidate before approaching the all-time high, Bitcoin looks like lower highs and lower lows. So Bitcoin's consolidating, continues to consolidate since the halving, since regaining the trend line over here. It had that burst up, tested the upper end. It's come back now. It's consolidating. We continue to look, and it's never happened since April, the end of April. We've been looking and waiting for a test of this trend line support now, for a test of that broken trend line over here as support to add to positions. And we said from the beginning, we don't know if it'll ever happen. So far, it's never happened. Will it ever happen? I don't know. This might have been the test. We were there to pick up. We had orders in at 8,200, right? That was the last time we picked up some nice longs on Bitcoin. And here we are. Bitcoin is just consolidating. Maybe it's this weekend. Market's not really doing anything yet. So we have, as far as fading, just let's look at it really quick on the 2-hour time frame, which is where we've been. All right. Still looking good. And above the breakout, by the way, above the entry. So yeah, so that's awesome. Kips, I remember when gold was trading at, I don't know if this is correct. We're going back 20 years. But I remember as I was just getting into the markets, me and my friend who we did all of our studying together, I remember gold trading around $400 and talking about hearing about a big breakout coming and how gold would be targeting $850. I didn't really understand it then. And I had no idea that if I would have bought and held, again, just even like a couple of months worth of salary in gold, then could you imagine how that would have paid off, especially if I was doing that in the paper markets with a little bit of leverage? Forget about it. It's enough. It would have been enough to retire on, right? Like that's like holding Amazon, that's like holding Google. It's like holding any of these tech giants, probably like holding Square for the next 10 years will be. I hope so. I'm not, but I hope so. Or holding Bitcoin for the next 10 years, right? Are we talking about Bitcoin $1 million in 10 years? The reason we say 1 million is just to give something like that people could grasp, right? So yeah, and that type of stuff was actually predicted by Hal Finney on the Bitcoin Talk forum, like as Bitcoin was launching, and they were doing the thought experiments on it. Hey, have a beautiful day. Have a great, safe weekend as well. Thanks for the like. Thanks for smashing the like button. Thanks for spending the time here together. We did look at New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar. Ready, Previn. What's going on, buddy? Didn't we look at New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar? Yeah, we said the Australian dollar, Canadian dollar looked a lot better. Nope, I don't. Stay far away from the exotics. Ready, steady, looking for the grinding lower reversal. Yeah, so I'm doing a detox right now with my wife to take this terrible tasting thing 3 times a day and drink this tea all day. But I'm not allowed to eat pork, or I'm not eating pork for the next 10 days. Yep, that's something to be watch out. Watch out for that downside. We're going to be really, 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 really watching it. Yeah, love Square. The buying opportunity was during the crisis, right? PayPal, I can't stand PayPal, but at least PayPal, how funny, they used to be like one of the staunchest opponents of Bitcoin. Now had just announced they will be integrating and using Bitcoin. Bloomberg is saying 1.25 euro. When are they saying that by, Mario? When are they saying that? Yeah, Raul Powell has made excellent cases for being long on the US dollar. And that's why I shared that link with you this morning about Lynn, who's making the bear case on the US dollar. Be aware of both of them. Be aware of both of them. Tesla consolidating. Oh yeah. Do I see a couple? I don't. Do I see a cup and handle? Let's look at the ES. What time frame? Let's see. Do I see a cup and handle? I don't see a cup and handle at all. If I look at this, what I see, or maybe you're looking at a different time frame than me. That's the problem. All right, that's not a cup and handle. If I scroll backwards, so a cup and handle, the lips usually are the same height, and I don't see any lips the same height. So I don't see any type of, that's not a cup and handle, would be like that. So I don't see it as a cup and handle. But just to take that all away, what I do see is this. And the market's had a very precarious position over here. Obviously, they are coming to an apex where we're going to see a break out to the upside, or we could see that break down. We looked at a couple of individual stocks, for example, Microsoft, and noted how that it was in that precarious position coming down into that support. It looks like a pretty much make or break it. If we have a second wave and the S&P drops to 175 and Bitcoin follows, let's say drops to 3,500, how does that affect your projection for Bitcoin? If we do have another, well, hold on a second. When the S&P was dropping, we were having actually a dollar crisis. I haven't looked at with all of you in any recent time, recently, liquidity, but right now, and Lynn actually gets into it in the interview that I shared with you, that link. And right now we're not seeing any stress right now in the financial system. which led to the crisis. The crisis started back in September, right? I remember the day I texted my family about the repo purchases, and I was like, it's starting. And, that led up to this giant crisis that we experienced come February, March of this year that was triggered by the lockdowns, but it was already ongoing in the repo markets where, the Fed right now is they're basically monetizing treasuries. We have QE going on. We're actually seeing swamp lines paid back. That's why you see that decrease in the Fed's balance sheet. That slight decrease in the Fed's balance sheet, that's not coming from quantitative tightening. That's simply coming from other central banks paying back the dollars they borrowed because they have access to more dollars. We're not seeing any type of indications that we're seeing that dollar liquidity. That's what led to the S&P coming off. That wasn't bad earnings. That wasn't bad growth prospects. That was the market was having a liquidity crisis. And Bitcoin also during that liquidity crisis felt the pain, as did every asset. And of course, how can you not understand that Bitcoin took a bigger hit than gold, which, silver took a bigger hit than gold? Of course, that makes tidy. Bitcoin's a tiny market. It's a $200 billion market. It's really small. However, if you didn't see that as a buying opportunity, and the only people that could buy then were people who already had funds on exchange waiting to buy Bitcoin, right? You didn't have time to transfer in Bitcoin and then be able to buy, when price was crashing like that, right? So if that happens again, is it possible to see this happen again in the lifetime of Bitcoin? Of course, I believe we're going to have another liquidity crisis in our future lifetime. Is that going to happen? Is that happening anytime soon? Is that happening this fall? I don't think so at all. And I do see, if we see any type of pullback on the equity markets, I mean, of course, it's a possibility we could retest and or break the March lows, but that's not probable. That's not probable. This was a lot of fear and uncertainty. There was a pandemic going on, and people were freaking out, and this shows. And I wonder if any, I know why the Robinhood users is just a loose term we're using for that type of perspective, that they were buying knowing the Fed was coming in there. Smart money had to play it smart because they need to protect large sums of money. And then you had, did baby boomers, did anyone sell out over here thinking the market was crashing, sell the bottom like they did back in 2000? I don't know. Or after 9/11, a lot of people after 9/11 sold out of their portfolios. Yeah. Yeah, so when Bitcoin gets to a $9 trillion market cap, that's approximately $375,000 to $420,000 Bitcoin, right? So are we headed towards that in this bull market cycle? There's no way I think that we're headed towards a $9 trillion market cap. Do I think that we'll break the $1 trillion market cap this cycle? Absolutely. I definitely do that. I definitely believe that. And once Bitcoin has a $1 trillion market cap, that's why, right? Is it maybe someone asked earlier why we said 50,000 Bitcoin? I'm not doing the math right now because it takes a little bit more than I could do right here with you. But 50,000 Bitcoin puts the market cap of Bitcoin at $1 trillion. That explains why that would trigger a whole bunch of funds to get invested in Bitcoin, because they'll have no choice. They have a fiduciary responsibility, and if they're not invested in Bitcoin at that point, they would be breaking that responsibility. Calling the market tops is what we've seen been going on for quite a while. We've been seeing that going on for the past, for months. In bull markets, trying to pick the top, that's the worst strategy that you can make. Just try to reprogram yourself. Just think about it. Sit down and picking tops, although it could offer the potential for the greatest profit. If you pick this top and then sold the bottom, that was the most money you can make on the S&P in the past 10 years, right? However, unless you just bought and hold and sold the top. But the whole way up for the 10 years trying to pick the top every time, that's not it. I can't look at the markets as they're into resistance right over here. They look to me like they're going to break out above that resistance and say that we're at a market top. Like what about this chart leads you to believe that we're topping? I don't see. I could see getting out of a long if you break down below 3,200. I could see getting short, if you break 31.23, if you break the trend line resistance here. But we continue to be buyers until we're looking for the short side. Yeah, that's good to be aware. Nope. The altcoins will outperform Bitcoin, in my opinion, during the entire Bitcoin bull market. The Bitcoin bull market is there are no altcoins without Bitcoin. Altcoins trade around the Bitcoin bull and bear cycle. I'm just focused here on Bitcoin. So when I say Bitcoin, that means all of crypto together. And we're under the impression that altcoins are going to outperform in this period Bitcoin. Being invested again in the top 100 or top 30 of the top of market cap of cryptocurrencies is my opinion, and it outperformed by a factor of like 3,000. I don't know if that's correct. I'll pull up a chart next week with y'all, or maybe this weekend, and show you. But definitely the better investment is in the altcoins. You too, George. I'm gonna go call it a day. It was actually a pretty long session. It's been a fantastic week. Thank you for that, Model 3 Life. I hope you all have a beautiful weekend. We'll be watching. I'll do a good video. If this starts breaking down, I will make everyone aware of our downside risk and what we're looking for so that everyone stays on the right side of the market, so that everyone stays protected. That's what we're here to do. I'm going to post that Lynn interview again. I'm going to post it again just in case anyone didn't get it. It's good listening to this weekend. It starts where you should be looking at it. Thanks, Will. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for the good vibes. Thanks, Charles. Gemma. Love the name Gemma. My favorite saint is Saint Gemma Galgani. If you don't know her life story, Google it. And when I say Google, don't use Google.